Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityoramamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish universal religion. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, the Yoga of Wisdom. Verse number 69. Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pasyatu munehe. Lord Krishna is explaining the characteristics of spiritual persons of steady wisdom. So there is a contrast between the person involving in the world and the person who is absorbed in his own true self. So this stanza explains, in that which is the night, that is filled with darkness for all beings, one who is self-controlled keeps awake. That in which beings are awake, which is samsara, that is the night for the wise person who sees. The ordinary person comes under the magic spell of Maya and becomes deluded. Being ignorant, he sees only what his senses show him. He sleeps when his senses sleep and wakes up when his senses wake up. That means he is just being under the dictates of his senses. He dances according to the tune of the senses. That is the nature of the person in the world. The person in the world thinks the world is very real, whereas the spiritual seeker sees the world as unreal. That means the world is constantly changing. How can you call it real? So, the man of wisdom does not depend upon his senses to show him the truth. He knows the truth, which is beyond what the senses reveal. He is awake when his senses sleep and sleeps when his senses are awake. The experiences of the man of wisdom and the experiences of an ordinary person are as divergent as night and day. A saintly person is one who thinks clearly. He is also a person of clear vision, who sees things clearly. This person is also referred here as Samyami. The Samyami is a wise person who has mastery over his senses and the mind. That which is day for everyone else is night for this wise person. He sleeps when all beings are awake. When they are asleep, he is awake. A wise person is one who is happy with himself, by himself, because of which he has no need for anything external. He gives up all desires as they arise, because he is happy with the self and in the self, the indwelling spirit, consciousness, Chaitanya we call. The wisdom of such a person is steady, it stays. His wisdom is steady because he is able to eliminate the pressure of attraction and aversion on his mind. His mind is no longer in the hands of attraction and aversion. He is always cheerful because his sense organs are not backed by ragadvesh, likes and dislikes. He is able to withdraw his sense organs from their objects at will. This person has the knowledge of the self. His knowledge stays. The darkness of the night does not allow you to see objects as they are, which means knowledge is not clear. The wise person is awake to what is night to all beings, the night of ignorance. While others are in this sleep of ignorance, the wise person is awake to the truth that self is Brahman. Those who are not wise are awake only to divisions. These divisions are very real to these persons, whereas for the wise person, for the person of inquiry, whose vision is very clear, any division is night. I am limitless is his vision. I am limited. I am limited. Then the ordinary man thinks he is always limited. So these two visions cannot coexist, one being the opposite of the other. It is like one person seeing the snake and the other person seeing the rope in the same object. Thus the contrasting views of the same world, as seen by wise and ignorant, are presented in juxtaposition in this verse for us to know what is good and what is not. The perception of the world of the ignorant person is always right opposite to that of the man of wisdom. Verse number 70. Apuryamana matala pratishtham samudramapaha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakamakami. Just as the water from many rivers enters the ocean, which is always full and which is immobile, similarly, in whichever person the objects of the senses, that is desires, enter, causing no disturbance in him, that person gains peace. One who longs for the objects of the senses would not gain peace. So the cause of our disturbance is squarely desires. As a rule, all rivers flow into the ocean. The ocean, however, doesn't depend on outside sources of water for its existence. It has all the water it needs in itself. It is full by itself. It is majestic by its own right. A river flows across many places and it may even change its course at times. Also, when there are severe rains, The river cannot contain itself within its normal boundaries. It overflows its boundaries and inundates the adjacent lands. Unlike a river, the ocean has fixed boundaries and it never ever crosses its fixed boundaries. The ocean is virtually grounded. Achala Pratishtham. The ocean is always full. It is full before the rivers discharge their waters into it. It is also full to the same extent even after the rivers discharge their waters into it. It never ever overflows its banks. No matter how many rivers discharge their waters into it, they fail to raise its level. The extra water gets absorbed quietly without producing any change in its level, without causing any disturbance in it. Also, the ocean does not dry up when the rivers cease to discharge their waters into it. It always remains calm and undisturbed. Like the ocean, the man of wisdom is always full. His fullness doesn't depend on presence and absence of objects of this world. In him, desires get quietly earthed as they enter. Even if innumerable sense objects constantly pour their stimuli into his mind, they fail to disturb him. They get quietly resolved in his buddhi, intellect. The kamakami, the person who has a desire for desires, he is happy when desirable objects enter him and unhappy when undesirable objects enter him. If the wise person is the ocean, the kamakami is a miserable pond which is subject to flooding in the rainy season and subject to drying up in summer. Vihaya kaman yatsarvan pumam sthati nisprahaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sasanti madigacchati. Verse number 71. Having given up all desires, whichever person moves around without longing, without a sense of I and without sense of mine, that person attains peace. An ordinary person considers that he is his body-mind complex. He is strongly attached to his body-mind. Everything agreeable to his body-mind gives him pleasure, and everything disagreeable to his body-mind gives him pain. He is also strongly attached to all objects which he thinks belong to him. An ordinary person is also full of desires. He is driven by his attraction and aversion. He is constantly being pulled by likes and dislikes. He is constantly being disturbed. He is constantly getting irritation. He wants to possess what he likes and get rid of what he doesn't like. He thinks that worldly pleasures are happiness. The wise person is one who has given up all desires and moves around freely in the world. This person is happy with the self, with the inner consciousness. There is no longing for anything in him. He has no attraction and aversion pressuring him. He has no desires. No situation is desirable for him. No situation is also undesirable for him. He is always peaceful. He is peaceful even in activity. Activity doesn't change his wisdom because there is no doership or enjoyership in him. The I sense is also gone in him. The karta is no longer there. He does not perform karma for its results. He is not interested in pleasures and security. He is not interested in yoga kshema. The wise person has no vested interest in this world. He knows that he is merely a traveler on this planet who is always in transit. Naturally, therefore, he doesn't want to be burdened with unnecessary baggage. He has no sense of possession. There is no sense of mine. He doesn't want to possess anything. He goes through life freely He can enter any situation or leave any situation without getting caught up in it. He is completely detached from drishya. Therefore, he attains the supreme peace. Esha brahmi sthitihi partha nainam prapi vimuhyati sthitva syamantakalepi brahma nirvana mrichati. Arjun, this is the state of being in Brahman. Having gained this state, one is not deluded. If one remains in that state, even at the time of death, he gains freedom. Jnanishta means study knowledge. Brahmanishta means remaining steadfast in the state of Brahman. Sthitaprajna is always in Brahmanishta. Steadfastness in the knowledge. He is always in the state of Brahman, which is born of knowledge of Brahman. The Sthitaprajna, the man of wisdom, knows that he is no other than Brahman. He also knows that the awareness in him is the same awareness everywhere else in the universe. The space in a small pot is the same as the space outside the pot. Both are the same limitless space. Awareness is limitless like space. Once a person understands and recognizes that he is limitless, he will never feel limited again. This knowledge is called Brahmic state. A state that is Brahman, which is limitlessness. It is not a state of experience. It is a vision of the mind brought about by the knowledge that one is free from all limitations. Once gained, this knowledge cannot be lost. Any person who attained the knowledge of the self will never be deluded again once removed. Delusion cannot return. Atman is Brahman. There is no Brahman apart from the Atman. After gaining Brahman, one never gets deluded again. Any state is subject to change. For instance, the dream state is subject to change. The Brahmic state, however, is not subject to any change, and therefore it is actually not a state, but it is knowledge. This is the self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is not a subject change, it stays. This knowledge is called Brahmic state. Knowledge gained is gained for good. When its nature is understood, the jivatva would be gone, the embodiness will go. There is no more jivatva. What remains is Brahman. There are no more false notions about oneself, and the earlier delusion does not return. Remaining this knowledge of Brahman, the wise person gains freedom in this life itself. Living, he is liberated. Liberation is possible even for a person who is in the last lap of his life. The person may be very old. Even the old person can know, helped by all his life's experiences. The old person has already gone through all the experiences that make one wiser, and he should be mature by this time. He should have no more attraction, aversion. This kind of mature person, even though close to death, can gain the knowledge. One can gain moksha at any time. If one succeeds in attaining this state, even during the last moments of his life, he remains identified with the Brahman eternally. There is no return from the Brahmic state. Then, for as long as he lives in that body, on account of his prarabdha, he lives in the knowledge of Brahman. So, that's how Lord Krishna explains the characteristics of men of wisdom. To close this chapter, we can summarize the points stated in this chapter 2. Sanjay explains the condition of Arjuna, who was agitated due to attachment and fear. Lord Krishna rebukes him for his dejection, which was due to attachment and exhorts him to fight. After failing to convince Sri Krishna through his seemingly wise thoughts, Arjun realizes his helplessness and surrenders himself completely to the Lord, seeking his guidance to get over the conflict of his mind. The Lord takes pity on him and proceeds to enlighten him by various means. He explains to Arjun the imperishable nature of the Atman, for which there is no past, present and future. The Atman never dies, therefore Arjun should not grieve. As it transcends the five elements, namely earth, water, fire, air and ether, it cannot be cut, burnt or dried. Everyone experiences conditions like pleasure and pain, heat and cold, due to contact of objects with the senses. The senses carry the sensations through the nerves to the mind. One should be able to withdraw the senses from objects, like the tortoise which withdraws all its limbs within. Lord Krishna asserts that only one who has the capacity to be balanced in pleasure and pain alike is fit for immortality. Lord Krishna goes on to tell Arjun that if he refuses to fight and flees from the battle, people will be justified in condemning such action as unworthy of a warrior. Having taught Arjun the immortal nature of the Atman, Lord Krishna turns to the performance of action without expectation of fruit. A man should not concern himself about the fruit of the action, like gain and loss, victory and defeat. These are in the hands of the Lord. He should perform all action with a balanced mind, calmly enduring the pairs of opposites like heat and cold, pleasure and pain, that inevitably manifest during action. Lord Krishna advises Arjun to fight free from desire for acquisition of kingdom or preservation of it. He must perform his duty. Arjun is eager to know the characteristics of a man who has a stable mind. Such a person, Krishna tells him, will have no desires at all, since he is content within, having realized the self, he is entirely free from desires. The consciousness of the Atman and abandonment of desires are simultaneous experiences. The various qualities of a stable-minded person are described by the Lord. He will not be affected by adversity and will have no fear or anger. He will take things as they come and will not have any likes and dislikes. He will neither hug the world nor hate it. The man of stable mind will have perfect control of the senses. The senses are powerful and draw the mind outwards. One should therefore turn one's gaze within and realize God who resides in the heart. The yogi, having achieved a stable mind, remains steadfast even though all sense objects come to him. He is unmoved and lives a life of eternal peace. Lord Krishna concludes that the eternal Brahmic state frees one from delusion forever. Even at the end of life, when one departs from his body, one doesn't lose consciousness of one's identity with Brahman. Lord Krishna has drawn for us in 18 verses the heroic and sublime character of the man of wisdom, study wisdom. In these 18 slokas, Lord Krishna has distilled the essence of the 18 chapters of the Gita. The Sthitaprajna is the ideal character of the Gita. Even the phrase Sthitaprajna is the Gita's own. Later, the Gita describes other figures in the same way. Jivan Mukta, liberated one, in the 5th chapter. The Bhakta, the devotee, in the 12th chapter. Gunatita, one who has transcended differences, in the 14th chapter. And the Jnananishta, one steadfast in Jnana, knowledge, in the 18th chapter. But the description of the Sthitaprajna is more detailed and revealing than the others. Here, side by side with the marks of the Siddha, the perfect one, we are also told of the qualities of sadhaka, the seeker after perfection. Along with constant repetition, constant meditation and self-examination are necessary. The man of study wisdom, Sthitaprajna, the very name proclaims it. His mind is steady. But how can the mind be steadfast without self-control? So the Sthitaprajna is said to be the embodiment of self-control. The mind being fixed in the Atman and controlling the organs of perception and action, this is self-control. The man of wisdom reigns in the Indriyas and guides them into Karma Yoga, the way of action, to vary the image. Using his senses as oxen, he plows well and cultivates the field of the disinterested performance of Swadharma. Every breath of his is used in this higher pursuit. This control of the senses is not easy. Perhaps in a way, it might be easy not to use one's senses at all. Silence and fasting are not so difficult. The opposite, to leave one's senses free, of course, comes easy to everybody. But to do as a tortoise does, drawing in its limbs in times of danger and using them when it is safe, to draw the senses away from objects and to use them aright for higher services, this discipline is difficult. For this, great effort and much wisdom are needed. Even with all this, it is doubtful whether we shall reach the goal. Are we then to despair? No. The sadhaka, the seeker after perfection, should never lose hope. If after trying all the techniques of his practice, something is still lacking, then let him call in faith, bhakti. The Lord has given us this very valuable advice in the course of his picture of the Sthitaprajna. He has given it in a few picked words, but these few words are more valuable than cartloads of explanation. For bhakti has been brought in when the need for it is greatest. Essential place has been assigned to bhakti in all our sadhana. In the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 28, Lord Krishna says, Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatraka paridevana. Arjun, the beings are not manifest in the beginning before birth, and they become unmanifest in the end after death. They are only manifest between birth and death. What indeed is there to grieve? When a child is born, you do not know its origin, that is, where it has come from. When the child has grown into an adult and then dies, you do not know where he is going. In between this beginning and end, there is a short duration when he is visible and tangible, when you are connected with him. This short transient phase you mistake for the permanent one, whereas the intangible phase in his life, before he was born and after his death, extends into infinity and is his true state. Not knowing this, we think this short temporary life on this earth is all that is. So we make elaborate plans and build up our lives with the limited view of making this life as pleasurable as possible. There's a beautiful verse about man's preoccupation with what he considers his in this life. Kanta ime me, tanaya ime me, griha ime me, pachavasvime me, evan naro mesha samana rupaha, me kritaha kalavrikena nitaha. It means how the man thinks it is given in this verse. He thinks, this wife is mine, these daughters and sons are mine, this house is mine, and these little cattle are mine. Overwhelmed by these thoughts, he says, me, 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 which means mine, mine, like a goat, hearing which the wolf in the form of Kala, death, comes and snatches him off. Of what avail are his material possessions to him now? That's the meaning of this verse. Man dissipates his energies, mental and physical, trying to amass more and more things for himself, and in the end dies without contentment. Instead of too much love and affection for the worldly things clouding his mind, he should use the opportunity of this life to transcend the fleeting joys and sorrows by cultivating equanimity. Bringing about equanimity is the final aim of religions. The very purpose of a temple is to bring about serenity of mind in a person. In the temple, the mind experiences a degree of calmness and equanimity. This is brought out partly by the atmosphere, the chanting of slokas, ringing of bells, burning of incense sticks, and so on. Thoughts subside. We forget pleasure and pain. Our day-to-day worries and anxieties are temporarily forgotten. The mind is calm. The effect is serenity. We must have this serenity not only in temples but everywhere, in all places, at all times. For example, for the wife the kitchen, for the ordinary man the office and home are all temples to cultivate samabhava, equanimity. Wherever attraction and repulsion occur, whenever pleasure and pain hit you, try to keep an equanimous mind. Lord Krishna says, only those who are free from the ignorance created by the delusion of the pairs of opposites, pain and pleasure, can attain me, the Supreme Self. So, change your attitude and shift your values right now. Be in the world, but remain untouched by it like a lotus leaf in water. Padmapatramivambasa. Vedanta, the art of self-perfection, is very, very easy. You need not exert yourself. There is no stress or strain. You can march forward without adjusting the existing circumstances. You alone can do it. Another cannot do it for you. He can at best give you a broad hint as to the method of cultivating it. Vedanta is self-cultivation, self-perfection, and need not bring about any conspicuous outward change. You need not run away from your duties wherever you are placed. Vedanta never advises you to run away from life and its responsibilities. For this, you need not undo anything in your life. Wherever you betake yourself, your body will also have to go, and consequently, you will have pleasure and pain. Running away from one particular set of circumstances will not do good. Instead, remain where you are placed and take care of the things and family and everything connected to you. Do the work presented before you to the best of your ability. But do not preoccupy your mind with imaginary fears, apprehensions, worries and anxieties. Live from moment to moment. Mind today alone. Don't worry about tomorrow. Be right where you are and raise yourself up spiritually. Do not be like fowls. They will walk here and there in a zigzag way, being always afraid of everything. They will go to any rubbish and be satisfied with the dirt and the worms there. This is the lot of the ordinary worldly person. Always afraid of death. He has no discrimination and thinks that the rubbish of worldly attachments and anxieties is everything. Instead, knowing the secret of Vedanta, be light and soar high like the skylark and get a bird's eye view of the things properly from above. Even when a little measure of equanimity is cultivated, there are some very direct results obtaining in a man's secular and spiritual life. The more you are unaffected, the more can you operate the free mind purposefully. In such an unaffected mind, God will be reflected more and more, and your progress towards God will be much quicker. Less and less attraction and aversion come out of such a person. He develops intuition. Moreover, he would face his duties calmly without getting agitated. The mind and intellect are clearer because of less and less agitations and tossing. Consequently, he can come to quick, correct decisions. You can see the opposite every day, everywhere. There are some officers who are forever agitated and ruffled. Even in a bad temper, they are confused and cannot solve any problem, in office or in their homes. If you go to them with any problem of your own, they will impart their irritation and confusion to you, and you will be no wiser in arriving at a solution to the problem. The reason can only be that the officer is torn by his own anxieties and fears, sankalpas. He is not able to work dispassionately with a clear mind. On the other hand, there are some officers who are responsible for big undertakings and projects. They are always calm, serene, and easily approachable. Be sure that this is because they are having equanimity in a more or less measure. As a result, their perspicacity and penetrating power are acute, and they can solve any problem in no time. Though they have big responsibilities, they are able to carry them lightly. The first requisite of any successful person is an undisturbed and unconfused mind. Anybody coming in contact with him in his dealings is impressed, for a mind that is unconfused imparts joy, equanimity and serenity to others. Why do people visit spiritual person? Because if he be a true spiritual one, he will be serene and tranquil and will impart the same qualities to those come in contact with him. Sorrow is contagious. Pleasure is contagious. So also serenity is contagious, and this is what everyone is after fundamentally. What is required is not so much of education and university degrees, but serenity. The greatest people were those that had this serenity and unperturbed state within, and not just university degrees. Whatever problems are presented before them, they are immediately solved. So, if you cultivate equanimity, by and by, genius will originate there. A mirror covered by dirt cannot reflect. The moment dirt is removed, it reflects perfectly. So also, a mind clouded by thoughts and worries cannot judge things properly. The moment it becomes free from these disturbing thoughts and anxieties, it shines its brilliancy. So, even having in view the mere success in the secular life, one must cultivate equanimity. Any anxiety and undue worry occupies the mind only because there is a strong negative aspect in it which negates your very aspiration. If you say, "Oh, my daughter should be married soon," and worry about it unduly, it only indicates that you are having a strong fear that your daughter will not be married soon. Just think, is it not true? A man who is confident that he can get his daughter married, will he worry so much? Whenever there is a strong desire in you, then understand there is an equally strong negative thought in you that your desire will not be fulfilled. So, remove both these forces. For any idea or thought emanating from such an agitated mind, torn between opposing forces, will never be successful. Any thought coming in an equanimous, pure mind is 1,000 times more powerful than a thought originating in a mind confused by attraction or aversion. It will have such a mighty force. This is the force of real prayer. When we are offering our prayers, sometimes a state comes where, for a fragmentary moment, our mind is free from raga and dvesha, attraction and aversion. It remains free from thoughts and serene. Now, if we have a desire or want just before we attain this serene state, that desire gets fulfilled by the mighty force created by the serene mind. This is what we mean by saying, "My prayer is fulfilled." Actually, The wish is fulfilled not by your wishing it. In fact, it cannot be fulfilled as long as you keep the mind engaged in wishing. But it is fulfilled the moment you actually stop wishing and the mind is calm and serene. If there is so much force in a mind remaining tranquil and serene for a fragmentary moment, how much more force must there be in a mind which is constantly in such a state? If you can keep the mind perfectly free from thoughts and serene, how much more perfect and fulfilled your life will be. How much more happy and accomplished you will be. So, start cultivating equanimity immediately. Today you may fail in 99 instances, but may be successful in one. The next day you may fail in 95 and succeed in 5. After 10 months or a year, you will succeed in 75% of the cases. This itself will give you a serene mind. All possible intellectual strength will sprout upon it. All virtues, all glorious qualities will start growing in you. A ripe jackfruit needs no advertisement to invite the fireflies. So also, when you become spiritually ripe, by cultivating equanimity, everything good naturally flows towards you. It is an eternal law of nature that like attracts like. An example is given: a pickpocket coming to a country would come in contact with most of the pickpockets already there within 2 days. A monk coming will very soon come in touch with persons of his bent of mind. Gods attract gods and devils attract devils. So, as you progress in goodness, everything good comes to you automatically. What difficulties you were having before vanish of their own accord. Moreover, you will find that you are unconsciously imparting the spirit of equanimity and goodness to others around you, your family, your friends, colleagues. Goodness is as contagious as badness. If you are serene and calm, everyone will like you. When a person becomes good, the tendencies in those around him will at first be to pull him down again to their own level. But if you stand like a rock and refuse to be pulled down, they will start slowly following you. In this way, if you improve, the whole family will improve. Mahatma Gandhiji, Vinoba Bhave, and some others who have earned a name for themselves all owe their greatness to equanimity. Suppose you have a small boat and want to cross the ocean. Even that is possible if the sides of the boat are intact. But if there is even a single hole on one side, water will rush in and the boat will capsize. Even when there is no hole, the water is pressing on all sides of the boat, but it cannot enter into it. Similarly, the world is full of sukha and dukkha, pain and pleasure, even as the ocean is full of water. But as long as you keep your mind fortified with equanimity, as long as you do not develop a leak, it cannot enter into your heart and create havoc. Once you allow a hole to form there, the world will rush in with its pleasure and pain and drown you in your own mental chaos. So keep the mind safe without a hole by means of samabhava, equanimity. Then the world may hit you with pleasure and pain, but they will beat a retreat with regret. Be definite about it. By and by, you will reach a state where any difficulty will only uplift you and not afflict you. You will be in a position to say, let anything happen in my life, I will be ready to face the situation. My vision is not external, but is turned within. God is everywhere. I have no enmity or friend. Each and every one is a representation of the one infinite self. There is a verse in Yoga Vasishtha where Vasishtha tells Sri Ramchandra, Paramapavanaya himashitaya samataya madhyatma vidamapi samitayamita Samitayamitantarahantaya Yadavashishtamajam Padamastu Tet. Yadavashishtamajam Padamastu Tat. O Rama, it is the opinion of all the Brahmajnanis that there is only one method to attain Brahmajnana, namely equanimity. How delicious will a glass of cool drink be when you have walking a long distance on a hot day, exposed to midday sun? Equally soothing is equanimity to your mind, which is exposed to pleasure and pain, is tossed, heated and troubled with desires and disappointments. Outlive ragadvesh, attraction, aversion, sukha and dukkha, pain and pleasure, and cultivate equanimity. Then little by little, the I and my feelings, the twin children of the ego, will disappear. Then the mind itself will die completely. And along with it, the ego also meets its death. Then and then only will you realize your true self, Chidananda. It is a wonder that though there is such a marvelous philosophy to guide our lives, people are not taking to it. There is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says, Ascharyavat paschati kaschidenam, Ascharyavat vadati. That very few people try to understand this great system of philosophy. Even of those few who have understood it and realized, very few try to come forth and discuss it with common people. Is that not a greater wonder? Even if a few of these realized souls come out and tell people of their experience and the path to it, very few care to hear it. And of even those who hear and understand that this is the only tattva capable of giving permanent ananda to human beings, a very rare few try to put it into practice and realize. Is this not the greatest wonder of all? So like that, this Yoga Wisdom Chapter 2 concludes. So the important point is controlling of mind and purifying the mind by steady practice. Always use discriminating faculty. Prepare the mind properly and practice spirituality without making any outward show, without making any broadcast that you are a great yogi practicing meditation. Do it in a humble way. The more you are humble, the more near you become towards God. Thank you. Another important event coming up in the month of July. You know, we are constructing Sri Ramakrishna Universal Temple, highlighting the universal message of Sri Ramakrishna. The first phase of the construction is over, so we are consecrating it on July 1st Sunday. The program begins morning at 9 o'clock, it goes up to 1 o'clock. So there are sponsorship for participating in the homas and worship. Please contact the office and register yourself and sponsor yourself for this program. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, down deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that both more various souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for Thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is Thy servant, O sweet one. In Thy mercy consider him as dust beneath Thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when the instant separation from Thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without Thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at Thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of Thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of Thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O Thou, who stillest the hearts of Thy devotees, do with me what Thou wilt, for Thou art my heart's beloved, Thou and Thou alone. O Lord, lead us from unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For He being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.